It's finally here, my Toyota friends. A safe, reliable way to free up our front sway bar. We were very fortunate and grateful for being asked to be part of the pre-production testing of this brand new sway bar disconnect from Apex Performance Products. Most notably, the installation process. In this video, you're going to get a hands-on experience of exactly how they're installed and how they work.
Modifying a Toyota for adventure travel? Looking for tips on camping, off-roading, or overlanding? Maybe we can help.
It's no secret that having a disconnected or free-moving front sway bar has huge advantages while off-roading. Added articulation being the most important. In addition to that, having the front tires actually moving independently from each other really smooths out washboard and rough gravel roads. Sure, you could remove the front sway bar altogether. Many people do. However, that makes the vehicle handle very poorly when it's on pavement and could possibly result in a legal liability issue if involved in a serious accident. Unfortunately, Toyota did not design their front sway bars to just simply be disconnected and left hanging there. The rubber boots on the CV axles would instantly be shredded. The only solution is to have a partial disconnect, where the ends of the bar are allowed to move freely up and down, but not come down too far and make contact with that boot. Many years ago, a garage-style business came up with these. They were made up more or less out of off-the-shelf bits and pieces and performed relatively well. However, there were many people who had an issue with these nuts coming loose, and then the sway bar link gets unattached from either the sway bar or the spindle, then the sway bar goes down into the CV boot and shreds it. We've been using these on our FJ for about 8 years. Never had a problem like that. But then again, we knew for sure that we had them installed properly and we maintained and inspected them regularly. But we did have problems with them. For one thing, this pin that reconnected them is really hard to put in, especially if you're on uneven ground. We had to take long screwdriver pry bars and pry on the sway bar just to get this pin back in. And the open heim joints on these did not last long in our salt environment. And like I just said, they required a lot of inspection and maintenance to make sure that these nuts weren't coming loose, which we found a few times that they did come loose a little bit, but we caught it in time. And lubricating these heim joints was always a hassle. We had to do it at least once a week. So thank God these things are obsolete now. So let's run through the installation process. When I first opened the box and saw that this disconnect system wasn't simply just a bolt-on item, I was a little intimidated. But even though it seemed complicated, it really isn't. And Apex has some very good instructions, and everything in the instructions must be followed for this to work properly. It's all in here for a reason. To get all the geometry right, there was a lot of different movements and measurements that had to be considered. These things are super well thought out and engineered. Apex spent a long time developing these. First, we had to remove the sway bar and the old links. We have sway bar relocation brackets at the front to move the sway bar forward to clear our larger diameter coil springs. Those had to be removed too. Then we had to do some modifications to the sway bar itself. The collar on the driver's side had to be removed. I accidentally cut the passenger side off first. Luckily, I had a spare bolt-on collar that I could put back on. The hole in the bar where the link attaches had to be moved forward. Apex sends along a template to locate it perfectly. First, a 1/4 inch pilot hole, then, using a quality step, drilled to 1/2 inch. The spot on the frame where the front sway bar mounts attach had to be modified as well. They had to be moved forward a little bit. Now you can't just simply reuse these old relocation brackets. I already asked. The location of this bracket has to be precise for the rest of the system to work properly. And again, a template is included in the kit to take all the guesswork out of where those holes need to be drilled. First a 1/4 inch pilot, then out to a size that will allow for 10mm riv nuts. Now if you don't already have a riv nut installation tool like this, you're going to need to borrow or buy one. Those riv nuts get pressed into place. In the kit are small brackets that will relocate this ABS wire, keeping it well out of the way. Now we can get to the real meat and potatoes of this system, the links themselves. This is really the exciting part. They don't attach to the spindle where the original sway bar link bolted on. Instead, they attach to the threads coming down from this upper ball joint. Oh, and these are on both sides, by the way. I need to mention a couple of things here. Originally, we were going to put these on our 4Runner, but we have spindle gussets installed on it. Unfortunately, these KWIKLYNX are not compatible with the Total Chaos spindle gussets on the 4Runner. Also, if you have aftermarket upper ball joints with a thread length longer than stock, it's going to need to be trimmed down. That's all explained in the instructions. There's a very specialized lock washer that Apex sends along that will ensure that this connection is secure. I also put a little drop of Loctite on mine. Apex also sends along a crow's foot adapter for your torque wrench. Torque specs for most of the connections you're making are in the instructions. At the bottom, there are built-in studs in the KWIKLYNX that attach it to the sway bar. There is a tiny bit of welding that has to be done. That's to attach a small bracket to the frame that holds this end of this air chamber. During our installation, we found out that there's a difference in the frame between the FJ Cruiser and the 4Runner, just up in this little area here. The bracket that Apex designed is designed specifically for the 4Runner. They didn't realize there was a difference either. Since then, we've talked to them about it, and I'm certain that they have redesigned that bracket to be more universal between the two models. So we had to do a little manipulation of that bracket. We had to fab up a little tab bracket to go along with it, but it's in the same exact spot that it should be, that it is on the 4Runner, so it works perfectly. The other end of that air chamber gets attached to the sway bar using this lever. It's prevented from spinning on the sway bar by the way of a steel dowel pin that drops down into a tiny shallow hole that we drilled in the sway bar. This air chamber puts just a little bit of pressure on the sway bar. That keeps it from just swinging up and down willy-nilly when this is disconnected. We have found that it has no effect on the drivability when the sway bar is connected. Using them is incredibly simple. You simply pull this pin out, pull down on the lever, and it comes right out. Do that on both sides, and now you have a free-flowing sway bar. Reconnecting them is just as simple. Just simply put it on, clamp it up, put the pin in. A nice thing about these is you don't have to be on perfectly level ground in order to get these connected. One end of the sway bar can be up a little bit, And just by the use of this lever action in the mechanism, it clamps it down really easy. These old-fashioned links made a terribly loud clanking noise when going up and down. Primarily because it was just metal on metal. Sure, they gave you this little rubber gasket, but as you can see, that didn't last very long. These links have special, really thick rubber stoppers, top and bottom. They do make a little bit of sound when they're bottoming out and hitting the top, but with these it's more of a quiet thud than a loud clank. And of course they make absolutely no noise when they're connected driving on the road. It's too early to tell how these will perform long term, but judging by the high quality of the materials used and all the engineering that's gone into these, I have a lot of confidence in them. So, if you like this video, please hit that like button, and I hope you consider subscribing to our channel. Thanks for watching.